Hi, my name is Julie. I was born into the Christian Science church and religion, and after 40 years I went my own way, and I feel like that brought me back to a deeper understanding of Mary Baker Eddy's original teachings. Today I was coming to me to talk about certain teachings within the church and religion that have diverged from the original, Mary Baker Eddy's original teachings. One of those is formulas. In the manual on page 43, we know we're not allowed to use formulas. We're not allowed to teach with formulas. We're not allowed to, it states, formulas forbidden, section 9. No member shall use written formulas, nor permit his patients or pupils to use them as auxiliaries to teaching Christian Science or for the healings the sick. Whatever is requisite for either is contained in the books of the discoverer and founder of Christian Science. Sometimes she may strengthen the faith by a written text as no one else can. Maybe an example of that is like in her first address to the Mother Church in 1895. It was the first address of the new Mother Church. She said, 3 cardinal points must be gained before Christian Science is demonstrated, and I should read it so I don't mess up the quote. And Christians, 3 cardinal points must be gained before poor humanity is regenerated and Christian Science is demonstrated. 1, a proper sense of sin. 2, repentance. And 3, the understanding of good. So if someone said, oh, that's a formula, well, that's what she's giving us. And in the manual, she's saying she can expand on things because she says this has to be done in this order. You have to have first a proper sense of sin, then repentance, then the understanding of good. So she's saying if it comes to me to give you something, then I will, but formulas are not to be used. And in so many teachers use formulas, and I think that's where one of the areas we got off track is we decided in our infinite wisdom that we know more than her. That she could instantaneously cure any disease. And she is the one that this revelation came to. She is the one that pulled all this together for us. But, she didn't understand people. She didn't understand mortal mind. She didn't really get it. And we get it now. So we're going to just, teach the way we want to teach and like lists. One thing is like, she even in the beginning of her practice, she had lists like this disease was this error and this disease was this error. And she realized that wasn't correct and that was formulaic and it wasn't correct. And that's because one person with diabetes, there is not the same error that every person with diabetes is dealing with. No, I mean there are some general errors that you might see pop up for people with diabetes, but in no way is there a formula that is so you would never just sit with a list as a practitioner or as teacher or if with yourself and say, oh, according to this list, diabetes is this and that's what I need to handle. I mean, that is like so far off that she actually stated and told people not to do that. But there's a teacher in our area that does that. I mean, she's a practitioner that does that. And like when I called her and maybe she doesn't anymore, but that was like 10, 15 years ago. I had 10, I was like, this. I had 10 things that I was dealing with, all physical stuff. And she went down her list and said, well, this is this, and this one's this, and this one's this, and that, and we're not supposed to do that. But people know better than Mrs. Eddy, everybody knows better than her. And there's a teacher in our area that teaches, using formulas. She teaches in class, and she teaches her associations treatments as formulas. She actually gives written treatments. She helps people create written treatments, and those are formulas. And she tells them, don't share these notes with anyone, because people are going to think that I'm teaching with formulas. So something within her knows, but she's doing it anyways because she knows better than Mrs. Eddy, and she knows better than everyone else. And as long as people keep quiet, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And it's like, when did we decide we know more than Mrs. My teacher corrected Mrs. Eddy like 3 times in class. And every teacher, and both my husband's and my teacher, whenever there's a statement somewhere in Pros Works, or like One with God she says a majority, they correct her every time. No, it's a monopoly, and they're like, oh, sorry, she was wrong. And I think like in Kimball, one of her, closest, friends and students, when in his class notes, he tells, we can see these now. You can buy his class notes online. You can buy them at the Plainfield. You can see them, I think, at the Plainfield Church. I don't know, that they're all over now. She said she weeds her garden every morning, which means she does self-examination every morning. And there's new errors coming up every morning. And I experienced that. I would agree. And he told his students, Mrs. Eddy doesn't, she says that, but that's not what we do. So there's a lot of that going on within the movement, where, and I think you have to, like, formulas is a big deal because, when she was giving treatments to her, to Christians who were coming and to her for teaching, they were brand new to all of these concepts, and so she was like giving them treatments, okay, to get their mortal thinking. Currently we believe that we're in a state of mesmerism right now. We believe we're mortal, we believe we're humans, but we're not. It's a state of mesmerism because it is not true. It is a belief of life, truth, intelligence, and substance in matter. But, we're going to have to unwind from that belief. And we unwind by turning our thoughts to God, to soul, to our true mind, to our true being, and asking and just listening and following that true being and saying, okay, I'm going to stop being the one that thinks they know everything or has to know everything. And that, because everything around me, all of my thoughts, everything that I see as matter, as thoughts, I'm believing it's real. I'm believing that's my identity in the mirror and the video, and so I've got to learn to turn to another source, and that source is God, or our true self. So giving up mortal thinking is really the path forward. And that's what she taught in everything she taught. But to get these students, like, thoughts turned to kind of like, okay, step 1, you're not ill. When you're giving a treatment, you're not ill, your patient's not ill, there is no such thing as illness. But, that's a good step. Number 2, Why not? Because you are the reflection of God. And if God's not ill, how can you be ill? And then step by step, these little steps that stepped new Christian Scientists into understanding the truth. And yet, all of that's true. But it's not, the key is like, it's not the process of thinking it through that mortal mind is healed. It's the process of like breaking the specific mesmerism at that moment that's holding them into the belief of life, truth, intelligence, and substance and matter. It's giving up the mortal thinking and being willing to. And often that line of reasoning kind of allows us to go, okay, if that's the case, and if that's what I'm hearing is the truth, and the illness is real, it makes it easier for us to give up our mortal reasoning and our mortal thinking that we are ill, or that, any problem that we're having. And that allows for space between us and the error and us and the problem. And that's when the divine mind kind of shines through, because there's a little space that we're like, okay, maybe I've been thinking about things wrong all the time. And this new way of thinking, like whenever you have a new way of thinking, it's like there's a moment where thought is quiet and you're like, oh. And that's when the divine mind is able to shine through, and that melts the mesmerism, and we like have these revelations or these moments of clarity. And that's what true healing is. True healing is these moments of clarity about reality, about what really is the case about reality. And so it's giving up mortal thinking, getting to a point where you let go of mortal thinking, and the divine mind is the thinker at that moment, or the knower, which is your mind. It is your real mind. So it's an unmesmerized state. The divine mind is an unmesmerized state. Mortal mind is a mesmerized state. So you wake up to know you were not ill, or there was not a problem. And I can see where she needed to do that with, people new to it. And even now today, people new to it, it might be that's helpful to them, I'm sure. But reading the books, you're going to get all of that by reading Science and Health and reading her writings. You're going to get all those course corrections, those mental corrections that you need. But gosh, generational Christian Scientists, I'm fourth generation. I've been hearing this stuff since I was a baby. The first lessons were, your spiritual idea of God. You're perfect. God is perfect. You're perfect because you're God's reflection. All this type of thinking I've heard since I was a baby. And a lot of us have. And so when we go to class and then we get these treatments, like affirm the truth, deny the error. Okay, if God isn't ill, you can't be ill. And let's put a different synonym. If soul is, can't be ill, then, body can't be ill. Let's change the wording. Let's add this. Let's do this little thing. We've had that our whole lives. And here we are still coming to class and needing help because we don't know what we're doing. And it's not working. And I would sit on my bed. I remember I have memories of my sitting there by myself doing these mental gyrations of, okay, God's not sick. I can't be sick. Error has no power. Error has no power over to me to make me believe I'm sick. I'm a spiritual idea of God, and a spiritual idea of God has not a single element of error. And this truth removes property properly, whatever is offensive. That's from Science and Health. We've all heard it. So we're repeating that. So I'm repeating the definition of man, because I've, at some point all the practitioners said read the definition. So I have the definition of man memorized. And so I'm thinking it to myself, walking through the definition of man. And I'm trying to get the right wording and the right order and the right, did I get it right? Oh, if I'm not having a healing, maybe I need it a different order. Maybe the words aren't in the right order. Maybe, maybe I need to substitute a different word for this word. And, there's all this stuff that's, because people are sharing their, oh, I had this and I knew this. And I had that, and it came, and I said this, and I thought this, and I, blah, 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 blah. So you've heard that your whole life. And so and that's all mortal gyration. That's all the stuff that was intended to get people new to Christian Science thinking differently, because the mortal mind doesn't heal. The mesmerized state does not heal. That's what mortal mind is. The state of mesmerism. I'm thinking we're the body, we're the identity, that I'm Julie. That's the mesmerism. It doesn't heal. It is like the landing gear, where it can be necessary in the beginning to get us off the ground, like an airplane gets the airplane off the ground. But as soon as the airplane's off the ground, those mental gyrations, mortal mind, we don't need mortal mind anymore. we were just getting mortal mind to a point where it was willing to see things differently, to kind of like, let's get our thought turned in the right direction. I need to sit down and listen and think these through. That is anything predicated on the belief that this material world is real. That's mortal mind's thinking. That's us thinking as mortal mind, as human beings. But as soon as we get thought just enough where there's an opening for the divine mind to shine through, because the divine mind's never gone. It never went anywhere. It's our mind. It never left us. It was just waiting. We're just waiting for a moment when we can quiet mortal mind enough and comfort it enough that we're open and willing to listen to the divine mind. And that's what breaks the mesmerism, is that willingness. And like when the divine mind speaks, that's what breaks the mesmerism. And we hear it. It's always speaking, but the moment we hear it, the moment we're willing to hear it, that's true healing. And that's when you have the aha moments and the revelations and the like clarity. And then, yes, at the right time and the right, so when it's time, you will see the physical beliefs, signs of illness disappear. They disappear as the thought has been corrected, as we see things differently and see more of everything as the divine mind and less as the mortal mind. Every one of these little revelations is like ascension. It's you're ascending in thought, and it takes many, 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 many of these ascensions to wake up completely. Can take lifetimes. A lifetime is just a dream. It's an illusion. But we have hundreds of them, thousands of them. I hate to break it to you. These illusions of life and matter. And so it may take hundreds of them. It doesn't have to. We can decide now, okay, I'm willing, I'm open to see things a different way. But we're going to be doing this self-examination for a while, this waking up from the mortal dream for a while, because it is so, and as a spiritual being, it's like a blip. As a spiritual being, it's not lifetimes. It's not, the spiritual being isn't like, because there's no time. As a spiritual being, time is not real. It does not pass. Time is an illusion. It is a manifestation of affinity, a manifestation of limitation. Time and space are manifestations of limitation. And as a spiritual being, as soul, as God, there is no experience of limitation. So time is not real in terms of it does not pass. So these lifetimes aren't like, they're all happening at once. It's and it's just different snapshots of errors and of beliefs of life and matter that are just happening at once. So I really do believe that if it was so important to Mrs. Eddy, and I do understand why, because if you continue to hold your students in chains into this kindergarten level way of thinking, as if that is going to do anything, especially for your multi-generational or your Christian Scientists who've been there forever, they've had that all forever. You're not giving them any treatments that someone else hasn't given them, that haven't seen in a journal article or a Sentinel article. It's everywhere. I never got it. I never connected with treatments. And it just wasn't something I connected with. When I had my first, moments of where I was supposed to be giving a treatment in class, I was supposed to be writing down my treatments and stuff. I didn't get any of that. I got visions, I got something I saw in my mind, like a line that represented something to me, and I understood all of a sudden, oh, I never could connect with treatments. It's listening and following. We become open to the divine mind. We listen and we follow what the divine mind's saying. And really, we quiet down mortal thought. And teaching students to continue to do these mental gyrations to keep the landing gear up as they're trying to ascend, it's going to stall that ascension. It's going to, keep the airplane. It's actually dangerous, because to believe that these treatments have any value in of them, that the treatments are doing something. Is the treatment healing? The treatment is on the same level as medicine. It's on the same level. It's hypnotism. We're unhypnotizing our thought. As a mortal, we're trying to unhypnotize our thought from within the illusion. But it is hypnotism. It is mesmerism. If it's done incorrectly, it's malpractice. The reason why she says, we're not supposed to treat others without their consent, is because mortal mind treating another mortal mind is hypnotism. It's mesmerism. It's a lot of 99% of this practitioners and teachers in the movement today use mortal mind to heal. They use mesmerism or hypnotism to heal. It is it is considered like a first step in learning Christian Science. And that's what formulas, that's what treatments are considered a first step in Christian Science, where mortal mind is going blip, 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 blip. Okay, there is no illness. God is all. I cannot be ill because God's not ill. I'm God's perfect child. Blah, 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 blah. That's mortal mind thinking through. Everything based on the premise that there's something to heal or there's something wrong. That's mortal mind doing it. But that is a first step that people first learn. But it's a step we move on from as soon as we're ready. As soon as we start to, be willing to let the divine mind take the reins, then we let go of the, of that stuff, of that type of healing. And it can be done in emergency situations, I think, without, but that's the reason she says we're not allowed to treat each other without consent, because pretty much everyone is treating at that level of mortal mind, which is a level of mesmerism. You're trying to unmesmerize them, or you're trying to mesmerize them into believing they're well rather than believing they're ill. But it's still the same thing. True healing, Christ's healing, is allowing the divine mind to break the illusion for us of illness and see that it never was real, see that I never, and you start to see that you never mortal too. That healing is regenerating. That healing is what Christian Science is all about. That healing is the healing of sin, because it's the healing of the sin, which is the belief of life, truth, intelligence, or substance and matter. And that's what the purpose of Christian Science is, the healing of sin. The smallest part of Christian Science is the healing of physical illness. So, when we all grow up, said you're not allowed to treat someone without their consent, that is because most everyone was treating that way. And she knew that was mesmerism and hypnotism, that we were entering into the confines of that mortal's thought. And we could be wrong too. Like, a mother that wants to treat their child, their 21-year-old child, to not have sex. These are things like where a lot of people are treating a husband for alcoholism without their consent, because I just don't want, or not even alcohol, I don't like them drinking, or I don't like them smoking, so I'm going to treat them. We have a lot of things we want out of others, a lot of expectations of others, a lot of opinions about how others should live their life. And this person, when I left the church, people were malpracticing me because they thought I was wrong and I was misled. So they were trying to mesmerize me, give me treatments, but it was malpractice, because I was led by the divine mind out of the church. And it was a very peaceful, beautiful experience that on my side of it, but on their side of it, I was wrong. But, they aren't allowed to do that. Mrs. Eddy said, don't treat other people without their permission, unless it's an emergency. She said there's only a very few exceptions. Now, if you were to learn true healing, where somebody is presented to you with some kind of problem, and you become aware of that, and you handle it within the confines of your own being, and they have a healing, you haven't treated them, and you haven't gone against what Mrs. Eddy said. Real Christ healing is very different than what she was saying here. And she knew that. She knew all this. If you're a teacher and you're saying, oh, she didn't understand, people of today, they don't get it, and so we have to give them treatments. We have to give them, we have to write it all out for them because they just don't get it, You don't know how many times that person has been told illness isn't real and all that stuff you're writing out. But somehow you think you know more than Mary Picker Eddy. And it's very dangerous. It's been very dangerous to the movement. It's been, because you haven't been honest with those students that that's not true healing. And obviously you haven't been, you don't even know it yourself. You don't even know that that's not true healing yourself. And so whoever taught you that wasn't honest with you, or didn't know themselves. But it is, treatments can be bad, really bad in a lot of ways like that. If they're not used to just get us get off the ground a bit, get our feet off the ground. And like, if you're out somewhere and someone's really annoying and you're starting to get really irritated, like, and you stop and you think to yourself, okay, I don't have to be so irritated. I need to calm down. I need to get focused. I need to understand they're a divine being, like I'm a divine being, and that this, this mortal illusion that we're experiencing together isn't the reality. Like, that kind of treatment it's a good way of just getting you focused. Okay. Now I can go higher in my thinking and just open it up to the divine mind and listen and not be like having the mortal, like, going on that's blocking me from hearing the truth. It's a way of like getting the blockages out, the main blockages that are currently like they're out of the way, and then so you can listen. And that, it is never the errors that come up when you're helping others. There's not a rhyme or reason. I mean, it is not like what you think. Who was it? One of the examples that we hear, I don't know who it was, is like a practitioner was presented with a child that was really ill, dying or something, and no one could, they were saying, oh, that he has this or that, or this is the error. And what was coming to the practitioner, handle drowning. And they were like, what? I don't get it. And that they handled, because they were just listening. They didn't rush in and just treat using the mortal mind. This practitioner actually listened and handled drowning. And there was an immediate healing. And she asked them, why did I have to handle drowning? And they go, oh, a few days ago, he drowned in the pool and he was revived, after that. And she was like, oh, that's why. I don't know if it was she or he. I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was. True healing, real healers, which should be all of us, they don't go jumping in to any kind of treatment and just think, I'm gonna treat my way out of this. No, they may need to do some little stuff to get them, maybe if the phone call or the conversation, or if the situation is like really strong, they may have to like quiet their thought with some mental, what you could call treatments. But that's not what they do. They go right to surrendering the mortal mind, allowing the divine mind to be in charge, and they just are aware of the truth. Like, we were always taught, when you see an accident, you declare there are no accidents. Well, that's another one of those things, like, no, don't do that. Don't start doing the little treatments that we, that like Mrs. Eddy didn't say that. She didn't teach us that. That's a formula. You see an accident, you say there are no accidents. No. You see an accident, you go neutral to it all. Neutral. You go within and you stay neutral. And if something comes to you, oh, okay. But the divine, you go out of mortal mind into divine mind and allow the divine mind to be your only mind. And if anything is needed, if you're needed to hear something or, see something, you will. If it's not, you're not. but stay neutral and then move on with your life. It is the reason she said not to treat others is because she knew that mortal mind can be wrong and is wrong most of the time. I mean, let's face it. All of the craziness in the world is happening in that mesmerized state. That mesmerized state is cuckoo nuts. It's not rational. It's not reasonable. If you're talking and you're thinking, oh, that, that politician or that whatever. Well, none of mortal mind is rational or reasonable. It is just a mesmerized state. Duh. Let's not get caught up in it. Let's not be reacting to the mesmerized state. There is something greater going on. Let's get in touch with that. And if you teach people that the mental gyrations are what Christian Science is about and what is going to be bringing about healing, and then you are setting your students up for a lifetime of, without true healing. And they're not handling the claims of sin. They aren't handling the true errors that are claiming them. They're just treating themselves, they're treating their way through situations, and for those of us who've had parents pass away, family members pass away, we have friends who have suffered for so long and have come to us for so long, why am I not being healed? And they're just so stuck. Those of us who've experienced this, these people are stuck in treatments. My dad was, treating his stomach all the time. When he had heart disease, he was, you retain a ton of water. Well, he was treating his stomach like, my stomach can't have any problems digesting food because God has no problems digesting. Digestion is a law of God, and so my stomach must reflect that law of God. Like, those are the things he did his entire life to the point of his passing, and would not give up those treatments for his life, because that was to him Christian Science is just, and my mom said that he treated us every day on the way to work. He gave us all treatments. There was no, why would you need to treat? Like everything, everybody needs treatments all the times. And and that's pretty scary. Like, oh, my daughter is like, she's not as successful as I want, so I'm going to treat her, for like whatever. That's malpractice. Anytime you're mentally arguing for something that you as a human being want for someone else, that's malpractice. And that can weigh heavy on that person if they have not been taught to handle malpractice themselves. And being taught to handle malpractice is what we're supposed to learn in class, by the way. What we are supposed to learn in class is what the chapter on recapitulation, and how to handle malpractice. But instead, we're learning treatments or formulas, which we are forbidden to learn. Like, I don't believe this teacher even teaches from recapitulation. And most teachers today that are at that level, who have not ascended to a deeper understanding of Christian Science, they don't know how to handle malpractice in any other way other than, don't believe it's true. Don't believe it's real. Don't believe anyone can be malpracticing you. It's kind of like, It's all this stuff. It's based on the premise that mortal mind is the one. The mesmerized state is really capable of healing once it's taught to heal. No, mortal mind can't heal. Mortal mind can't heal. Mortal mind can do some self unmesmerizing of self by, using, by knowing the truth, by, working its way, kind of like using that landing gear at the right time. But it's up to it's actually a surrender of the mortal mind that is what heals, and not the use of mortal mind that heals. And so you got to wonder if your teacher is doing this, that do they really know what true healing is? Or why are they teaching me that this is true healing? Or, how much of that do I really need if I can read Science and Health? And in Science and Health, the truth is all there. The truth is all there of who we really are and what's really true. Do I really need it written out in formulaic ways in treatment? Or do I need, handling malpractice? You handle it through self-examination. So if we're learning about recapitulation, we're going through recapitulation in class, and we're learning how to handle malpractice. Those are the two most important things. Malpractice is handled by self-examination. You examine your thinking, you allow anything to surface that needs to surface that isn't real or isn't true, or something you were believing, you allow it to surface and you let it go. And so nothing within you can attract or can hold that mental dart. If, like, for instance, if someone is malpracticing me, they're malpracticing Julie. But through my growth and through my ascension process, I am working out of the belief that I'm Julie, and instead I'm divine mind. I am soul. And so their darts are going right, and not to who I really am. They're going to Julie, what they believe, their concept of Julie, which is no longer my concept of my identity. And they don't, you can't. But even if it does, because I've dipped down into thinking I am the mortal, I still do self-examination if I feel the malpractice dart, because if something in my thinking is barbing their belief that I'm Julie, and so it's barbing it and it's causing me, mental pain. And that's how any of us would handle malpractice. Anyone is, you do the self-examination work day after day after day after day after day that allows for this ascension process of more and more you're surrendering the mortal selfhood in favor of the divine selfhood. And all malpractice then starts to just go right through you. And then you're more aware of it. Also, you become more sensitive to it. And then you get better at the work, better at the self-examination, better and quicker at seeing it and letting go. That's what she wanted taught in class. That's the two things she wanted taught, was what malpractice is and how to defend yourself against it. Like it's on page 80, Defense Against Malpractice, section 3, page 84. Line 1, teachers shall instruct their pupils how to defend themselves against mental malpractice, never to return evil for evil, but to know the truth that makes free, and thus be a law not unto others but to themselves. Yeah, you don't ever look at it as personal. You don't say, oh, that person is trying to hurt me, or thinks I'm wrong, or thinks I'm, whatever. They're in a mesmerized state. It's a mesmerized state. It's an impersonal mesmerized state. And the true being There, the true, identity is soul, and that soul has nothing against you, and that soul knows nothing about this mesmeric state that hates you, or thinks you're bad, or wants to fix you. So many people, Mrs. Eddy realized her students were wanting to fix each other, make each other better. And especially like when you're teaching self-examination, you often, when you're learning self-examination, you start thinking, well, you see what's in other people's thoughts a lot sooner than you did before. And the temptation is to try and fix them, or to tell them the errors that are in their thoughts. And that doesn't work, because believe me, I've been there. And a mesmerized state, to be told like spot on what the error is, no, they do not believe it. They will not even, they're just like, you are a crock of, crap, like you're a liar, whatever. To be told the mesmerized state, to be told spot on what that error is that they're dealing with, they're like, nope. And then, but even if you're right or wrong, it doesn't matter, because we're not trying to make people better by being a better, if you're aware that the error is like envy, and you tell them, oh, you're experiencing envy, so what good is that to them? Because it wasn't their demonstration that brought up envy to them. And so it is no good to them. They're like, it's almost like you said, it's a banana split bothering you. That's how meaningful it is to them when you tell them their error. And when you pray for that error specifically too, each of us has to do the work on our own, and divine mind breaks the mesmerism, and we see these errors in a way that we understand, in a way that we aren't, thinking, oh, I'm a terrible person. It comes as, oh, I was believing this and I was believing that, but I don't anymore. It comes with a total a letting go feeling. It doesn't come with guilt, and it doesn't come with judgment. But when someone tells you, like, you're dealing with envy, that comes with guilt, and that comes with judgment, and it doesn't come at the right time. Like, it has to be the right time and the right voice, and it's their internal voice that's telling them these things, not you. So we all think we can help each other in the beginning, or we can this is the area you're, or we're trying to, and it doesn't work that way. It's all just, mortal mind, and it's all between each one of us and the divine mind. So that's what came to me to talk about today. So I hope that's helpful. Have fun continuing your self-examination, since it gives us plenty of employment, and it actually becomes a wonderful freeing event that I wouldn't change for the world. And I'm so grateful I finally learned it, and I'm so grateful that I finally found my way out of treatment and the belief of treatment, and I hope you do too.